So now we're going to move into quarter juji gatame, and this is the most easily accessible juji most of the time, but it also has some pretty big drawbacks as far as control and ability to, you can break your partner still from here, but it leads your partner into a pretty easy rolling escape because of the fact that there's nothing really controlling the far side of your partner's body. Like, at least if you're in a full juji, you have a back heel with both legs, whereas if I'm in a quarter juji from here, it's a pretty easy thing for her to just roll, start unlocking the hands, rolling out, and now it's hard to hit a follow-up from here because your leg's in a pretty poor position. So you can finish from here, but what I usually recommend, just tactically, is because it's easy to entering into a quarter juji and then using different gripping variations to get your leg free and switching into full and 3/4 jujis eventually. So we're going to go through some just grip breaks, separations in the quarter juji that will apply throughout the entire instructional, as far as breaking your partner's hands apart with 10-finger, palm-to-palm, wrist-to-wrist, etc. grips. We'll go on to finishing mechanics, and then we'll show you how to transfer into more robust juji leg positions with full juji and 3/4 juji. Let's now let's look at some ways my partners can escape from here. So in general, you have the 3 directions of escape. You have rolling escapes, you have stacking escapes, and you have knees coming inside. When I have a quarter juji, because your bottom leg isn't exposed to her knee coming inside of my knee, and my leg is on the near side of her body, when she goes to actually bring her legs to the inside, she can't do it. So the one big positive that you have with the quarter juji is your partner only has the ability to come up and stack you or to go into rolling escapes. At no point can she bring knees inside and look to start trapping my leg like she can, whether it be in a full juji, 3/4 juji, or other different juji variations. So because my leg isn't across my partner's body, when she goes to actually trap my leg from here, she can't do it because of the fact that she can never steal the inside knee position. So she only has 2 directions of escape here rather than 3 directions of escape, which makes my job a little bit easier, but her 2 directions of escape are so strong that I generally recommend, even with the 3 directions of escape, moving to the other jujis. But just so you know, your partner only has 2 directions she can escape in here, and it's stacking you or going into rolling escapes. Alright, so now we're going to look at top hand versus bottom hand post. And understand that if you're looking to fall towards your partner's legs or towards your partner's head, a lot of time it's going to be contingent upon the grips and where in the direction you initially fall. But understand that your partner can change grips as you fall. So if I go with the bottom hand post, for example, and I fall towards my partner's legs, and I'm looking to start separating my partner's grips, and she has, switch your hands, and she has this grip where I'm pulling away from the grip now, she can switch this and she can just change the grip, like so. So now I'm pulling into the grip, which you can still separate your partner's hands, and we'll look at that and ways how to do that. But normally when I enter into this position, let me go either in with any juji from here. When we start falling to a given side, I generally look to start falling to a side, which will allow me to start separating my partner's hands and pulling away from the grip. So the top hand post versus the bottom hand post is going to be initially which direction I'm falling to, contingent upon my partner's initial grip. Okay. Now, if I'm going to fall towards my partner's legs, I'm never going to fall towards my partner's legs when I have a top hand post. Because if I fall towards my partner's legs, you're going to fall all the way down to your shoulder. And when you fall down to your shoulder, you'll just see, like right away, it feels so awkward from this position to fall down. You have to go wrist deep on your partner's elbow, and you feel like everything is falling out and away, and your partner's elbow is going to be freed. So in general, if I'm falling towards my partner's legs, I generally will have a bottom hand post. So now I fall to my elbow. So I maintain some height on my partner. I have a good grip with my left hand, elbow to elbow. When she goes to free her elbow, it's difficult, and we can start to work from here. So if I go bottom hand post, I'm going to look to, in general, start falling towards my partner's legs. If I go top hand post, then I'm going to, in general, start falling towards my partner's head. Because if you try to go top hand post, again, the opposite, try to go top hand post from here, you start falling down in this direction, your head is so low that right from here your partner can immediately go into a rolling escape, you can start bridging, and it's hard for you to recover. So we play with top hand and bottom hand post. And we can play these 2 off one another depending on what your partner's trying to do. If I see from here, maybe you train with, a group of people, and you know that if the second you put someone in the juji, they're going to try to stack you. So the second someone goes to try to stack you from here, you go bottom hand post, because as she goes to start sitting up, then it's difficult for her to sit up. Maybe you deal with someone who the second you enter into a quarter juji, they want to go into a rolling escape, and they want to start bridging their elbow across to this hip. Then from here, I'll go in and I'll use a top hand post. So when she goes to bridge, it makes it difficult from here, okay? And now, let's say she goes to start sitting up towards me, and she knocks me down to my right-hand side. But I don't want to have a situation where now I stay with the bottom hand post, or the top hand post, and now I start losing height. So you can switch interchangeably through these transitions. Let's say from here, my partner goes to hit a quick pendulum and I see the legs coming up. Right from here, I'll switch my hands and I'll go to a bottom hand post, where now I have a post from here. So you can change these as you go, contingent upon what your partner's defensive reaction is. If we're sitting here and I have a bottom hand post and I see my partner's constantly looking to start bridging, you can always just swim the hand through, and as she goes to bridge, we can post that top hand through. So we can change these through pretty easily without losing my partner's elbow. And we look at our partner's defensive reaction, whether she's trying to stack or whether she's trying to bridge and go into a rolling escape, and then we can change our hand position contingent upon her defensive reactions. But we can go between top and bottom hand post, and we can start falling towards my partner's legs or towards my partner's head. Alright, so let's look at the initial stabilization in quarter juji with our top hand and bottom hand post. Understand that when you're dealing with a sophisticated defensive player, they know that when you have a bottom hand post, it's going to be hard to start sitting up into you, because of the fact that you have the cross face legs. When she goes to sit up into me, the cross face leg makes it difficult, and the bottom hand post will make it difficult to sit up towards me. But it will be easy if my head's on center to start bridging and going into rolling escapes, or bridging and getting my knee to the floor and coming over that leg, and then stepping and then shoulder walking over my my top leg position. So when I have a bottom hand post, I'm just initially stabilizing. You enter in, you start with the bottom hand post. What I don't want is my partner knocking me to a shoulder on either side. So I don't want her knocking me all the way to a shoulder on this side and coming up and stacking me. And I don't want her knocking me to a shoulder on this side and coming up and either going into an easy rolling escape or a shoulder walking up and over my leg. So in general, when I go into the initial stabilization here, and I want to just stop my partner from just exploding and getting out right away, so I can actually work towards my submissions. If I have a bottom hand post, I lean towards my partner's legs, because your partner knows that coming towards me isn't really a strong option from here. But bridging and going into a rolling escape is a much easier option. So I take my head off center and I go bottom hand post, and when I go bottom hand post, I lean towards my partner's legs. So now when she tries to explode towards me, she can't do it. When she tries to explosively get her elbow to my left hip and go into a rolling escape, it's hard from here. All right? And if she just opens her hands and tries to go into a rolling escape, it'll be easy for me to start going in and then pointing my knees towards the ceiling and breaking my partner, because she didn't take her elbow off the breaking fulcrum before she went to roll. If you contrast this with the top hand post, I generally fall towards my partner's head and I point my knees in the opposite direction. So instead of pointing my knees towards my partner's hips, I point my knees towards my partner's head. So now from here, when she goes to sit me up and stack me, she can't, because I'm leaning my weight too far towards her head. And when she goes to start bridging and going into rolling escapes from here, she bridges into the post hand, so she can't knock me all the way to her shoulder on one side or the other. So I want to maintain head height so that my shoulders don't fall to the floor, and then she can make escapes easy. I also don't want my partner being able to sit in either direction. If she's strong defensively, she knows that if I have a top hand post, she'll want to take me down to my right shoulder and start stacking me. So I go top hand post, and I lean towards my partner's head. She knows that if I go bottom hand post, she wants to start taking me towards the head. So I go bottom hand post, and now I lean towards my partner's legs. And initially can stabilize people from here, because when she goes to explosively, the first 3 to 5 seconds she goes to initially get out, go ahead, she goes to stack, she goes to pendulum up, it's hard. If I move into this position and I end up with an initial entrance with a top hand post, when she goes to explode out, when she goes to move, stack, me, bridge, it's hard. If you're just sitting here and your partner goes to start moving around, she knows there's no bottom hand post. So from here she uses a pendulum, and now you run to the dangers of getting knocked over. Or if you go bottom hand post from here and your head's on center, you're sitting up like so, she goes to start bridging, she immediately brings the elbow to this hip, and now from here my my knee starts opening, and now she can go into a rolling escape where she can come up and over the leg. So just a general idea on initial stabilization. In general, if I enter into the move, we go quarter juji, and I have a top hand post, I fall towards the top hand, towards my partner's head. If I have a bottom hand post, I fall towards my partner's legs, post on the bottom hand, and I make it hard for my partner to take me in the opposite direction. So this is assuming your defensive player knows what's going on and knows which defensive direction to go in when you're top hand or bottom hand post, and you have to adjust and correct that with your head position relative to whatever post hand you have. All right, so now let's look at, actually, when we're going to separate our partner's arms, me and John and Gary used to sit on the edge of EBI mats laughing at people in overtime trying to separate people's arms like this, where they have like 30 seconds to do because they just got submitted and they're like this, trying to separate their partner's arms. Understand that when you're trying to separate your partner's hands, you're always looking to work at the long end of the lever. If I'm pulling elbow to elbow, I'm working at the short end of the lever, okay? So my whole thing from here is whenever I go to separate my partner's arms, I want to go elbow deep on my partner's wrist, and I want to get the furthest up the lever that I can. So when she goes to hold on, the longer lever allows me to easily separate my partner's hands. If I'm pulling from here and she goes to keep her hands locked, that's a joke. But the second I move to the long end of the lever from here, now I can go in and I can easily start separating my partner's hands, working elbow to wrist, elbow deep. So now as I separate, when she goes to relock, she can't do it, and then I can cover my partner's hands, and then we can go in and start extending. So whenever I'm looking to go into my final extension and looking to really extend my partner's arm, make sure you always go elbow to wrist, elbow deep, and get to the long end of the lever so that we can easily pull our partner's hands apart. All right, so we're looking to separate our partner's arms. And now this applies when you fall in either direction, but it applies mostly when I'm trying to separate my partner's arms and I'm relatively upright. It's like, so for example, if I'm here and I'm in a relatively upright scenario, and you'll see scenarios like this later, where I have a full juji and my partner's arm is crossed on the far side, and I'm trying to separate my partner's arm. You see from here, if I go elbow deep and I'm reaching far forward, I try to pull my partner's arm in, you get a situation where you're kind of like too far extended to start extending your partner back, and your partner's elbow is right in your center line. So when I go to actually pull my partner's hands apart from here, it's a lot harder than you think it would be. Whereas if I take my partner's elbow to my hip, if I take my partner's elbow down to my right hip like so, or take my partner's elbow to my left hip like so, then it's easy for me to reach, and it takes my partner's arm out of alignment. So it makes the grip break much easier. So I look at the grip my partner has, let's say it's a 10-finger grip like so, I want to pull away from the grip, which means I'm going to be pulling to this side, like so. So from here, I don't want to take the elbow this way and then pull it. I want to take the elbow to my right hip, so that now I can go in and that we can get a much better grip on our partner's arm, much better extension, so when she goes to lock, I can easily go through and separate my partner's arms much easier, rather than having my partner's elbow on the center line, where now I try to fall and it's difficult. When I take my partner's arm out of alignment, it gives me better range to come forward, and it gives me a stronger, deeper connection, and it takes my partner's arm out of alignment and just makes her grip inherently weaker. If she switches her grips, for example, like so, now I don't want to pull into the grip like this, I want to go in the opposite direction. So from here, I'll take the elbow across. And now we can go through, we can go elbow deep, and we can start pulling to separate our partner's arm like so. So we can play this game where we look at our partner's grip, and we take our partner's elbow to the correct hip to go in and start separating. Where from here, if I see her top hand is facing down, then we can take our elbow to our left hip. And now we can come through, we can go elbow deep with the right hand, and we can start separating. If we see on the opposite side, she switches, now from here, we take our elbow to the bottom hip. And now we want to start pulling against that grip, so we go in and we pull those hands apart, and we start playing in this game like so. So just taking our partner's elbow to our hip in these various juji positions will make it easier for us to go through, get a deeper grip, and separate our partner's arms much more easily. Alright, so now we're going to start with everything falling towards the legs, then we're going to go falling towards the head, and we're just going to look at using a kipping motion, a pop, pop, pop motion, to separate our partner's hands as we fall. Okay, because we can always test our partner's grips by just pulling, and see if we can get that separation initially. Okay. Now, when I do this, it's very important that I look at how I'm going to use this kipping motion. I taught this at a seminar recently where we have an arm bar like so, and we play a kipping game where we pump the hands apart. And I did it from this position. When I pull the hands apart from here, I can't pull the hands locked tight. I can't pull the hands completely reset so gives her ability to grip again. Pull and reset, pull and reset. Every time you pull the hands, you can't get this and then back. It has to be this, and then it only resets 70% of the way. And then it pulls and it resets 70% of the way. Then it pulls and it resets, and it pulls and it resets, and it pulls and it resets until you get that separation. So I have constant tension. So I pull, she goes to reset, she can only pull back so far. I pull, she goes to reset, she can only reset so far. I pull, and every time we get further and further away. So that from here, when she goes to lock up tight, I just pull, 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 and we separate the hands nice and easy. And the same remains, the same idea, not as strong in a quarter juji, but you can still do it from here, okay? So right from here, we're gonna go in, we're gonna start falling towards the bottom side like so. So we're gonna, in general, of course, we're gonna have that bottom hand post, because we don't wanna fall and then fall all the way down to our shoulder and start losing our elbow position with our partner's near side arm. So you go quarter juji, and we start falling down towards our right hip like so. Now from here, we're gonna go through, and we're gonna look to start going in elbow deep with our left hand and looking to separate our partner's hands. So from here, we go through, and if I have to, I can reach towards my partner's elbow, and we can reach elbow deep like so. So now from here, when she goes to lock up tight, we go in and we just start kipping. Now this won't always work from here. Sometimes you have to actually do a grip break and separate your partner's hands. But I always test my partner. So we just go in, we engage the hips. So the hips come forward, and then from here we just connect our partner's elbow to our left hip like so. Now from this position, whether she has palms like this, or she switches her hands, or from here she has palm to palm, we can go in and we just test our partner, and we just start kipping. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we separate our partner's hands. This is the first thing I always do. I always test my partner with this kipping motion. So when she goes to lock her hands, I say, okay, how tight are the hands really locked? Sometimes you do it, you can't separate the hands. You're here. But sometimes you do it, and the hands come apart, and now from here we can go in, and we can start going in and separating our partner's hands right from here. We can also do this from a situation where our partner just locks the hands up, and right from here we can go in, and we can go with an elbow deep grip right from a seated position. Now understand, if your partner just is holding your hands from here, you can do this pretty easily. But if your partner's trying to sit up or she's bridging in any direction, you're gonna have to go in and post hands on either side depending on where she's going and make adjustments. So if your partner's naive and she's not doing anything, I can just do this from a relatively square position, where from here she goes to lock up and we just kip, 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 and we separate the hands. Or she switches the hands, and from here, we always wanna go away from that grip, so we go in, and we kip, 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 and we separate the hands. Now the second my partner goes to start sitting up towards me, I have to post a hand. And that brings us here, where now more realistically in a combat scenario against someone who's good, who knows what's going on, then we go in, we kip, 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 we separate the hands at the long end of the lever, and now we can make our grip change to go in and start finishing our partner from here, okay? So to be honest, even at the highest levels, like a lot of people are gonna just literally lock their hands and hold on for dear life, and you can just do it from this position. But anybody good knows that you shouldn't have two hands on their arm at the same time. So you're gonna bridge in this direction, which you'll have to post, then you can start going in and start separating, or they're gonna go to sit up, and as they do so, and we fall, and we start pulling the hands apart. We can just use the kipping motion to initially test our partner, try and separate the hands, and if we do, great. If we don't, then we start interfering with our partner's actual grips and locks. All right, so now let's look at our basic grip once we have the hands separated. Okay, and these grips can change, but this is gonna be your go-to grip almost all the time when you're finishing a standard juji. When I look to separate my partner's arms from here, what I don't want once they're separated is for her to re-lock the hands, okay? So what I need to do is I need to control my partner's hands, my partner's hand in a way that she can't re-lock the hands sufficiently, and a way that I can control my partner's thumb to stop her from moving the thumb and easily going into rolling escapes. And one grip deals with both of these problems, okay? The grip I want to take is a grip that you would take if you're saying like, hey, what's up to somebody? Like this. So when my partner from here goes to re-lock the hands, she can't incorporate the thumb into any of her grips. So she can't put a palm to palm, she can't put a wrist to wrist, she can't lock a figure four. The best she can do from here is to grab her own fingertips and to pull herself in. But when she goes to actually lock the fingertips in place, there's too much mass in the way to actually get a strong grip. The second part of this is that I have direct control precisely over my partner's thumb. So So from here, when she tries to go into a rolling escape, she wants to point her thumb in the direction she's trying to roll. So I, from here, can control my partner's thumb, so when she goes to go into a rolling escape, she can't point her thumb where she wants it to go. And then I can point it on my time in the direction I need to break and go and push across my partner's hip. Okay? So one grip deals with both of these problems. I don't want my partner relocking hands, and I don't want my partner being able to move her elbow or her thumb and then turn her elbow in the direction she wants to go in order to avoid the elbow directly on the breaking fulcrum. Okay? So from here, when I separate my partner's hands, immediately I go to this grip. So right from here, we fall down towards our partner's switch. We fall down towards our partner's legs like so. We separate, we kip, kip, kip. Right from here, we just slide our right hand up and we catch, like so. Now, right from here, we're gonna fall back and we're gonna take that elbow deep grip and we're gonna move right to our partner's wrist with a V grip like so. So that we have strong control over our partner's hands. Now from here, I take my two elbows together and I pull my partner's elbow towards me, and that gives me a strong hip-to-hip connection, or hip-to-body connection. And now from here, we lay back. Now when she goes to hit any rolling escape from here, there's just no way. When she goes to reconnect her hands, even if she gets her fingertips locked, there's just no way. And now we can go in, we hit those strong grips, and now we just roll two of our wrists over our partner's hands, and we just put our partner's knuckles right on our stomach here. So now from here, when our partner goes to roll, she can point her thumb in the direction she needs to roll, but only that far. As she goes belly down, the thumb has to turn belly down as well in order to escape. If the thumb can't turn belly down, she can't get out. And now even if she's here, I can still finish her belly in a belly down position. So the second I separate these hands from any of these jujis, we go in, we kip, 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 we separate the hands, immediately we just shoot, and we just feed the elbows together. So my elbows coming together gives me her hand. Now I go in, I go V grip on the wrist. Now as I go to fall, I pull her towards me by bringing my two elbows together and lifting the hand towards my face. Now from here, I open the elbows. And now we're ready to go in and start controlling our partner and going into breaks. All right, so now let's look at finishing mechanics. There's a general rule. Okay, this is not a rule that will never be broken. It's just a general rule for most arm bars that when you're finishing on your partner's right arm, you want to break over your right hip. Okay, so when I'm in a quarter juji and I have my partner's right arm, I want to break her over my right hip. If I try to break her over my left hip, it won't work. Now, things like this change when I start moving into situations like shoulder senkaku, like so. Because now from here, I can break over my right hip, but as my partner goes to start sitting up towards me, he can also start going in and breaking over the left hip. So this is a general rule. You use it for most traditional arm bars, but there are exceptions to this rule where you can break right over left, left over right. But in general, you're going to break right to right, and you're going to break left to left. Okay? Now, the mechanics of actually breaking are simple. When I go to actually break my partner from here, I don't want to pull my elbows down towards the floor. There's a difference between a tap, a pop, and a break. To get taps, pretty easy. Most people tap pretty early. To get pops, a little bit harder. To get breaks, it's pretty hard to actually catastrophically break someone's arm or leg. Okay, you have to have the proper mechanics to do it. And if you don't have the proper mechanics, you can't catastrophically break someone, a lot of times they can keep fighting. Okay, you can injure someone, they can fight through it. If you catastrophically break someone's arm or leg, they're going to be severely impacted during the fight. Okay, that's what we want if we need to. So you see from here, actually take a rotation, from any juji, no matter the leg position, if I fall in this position, and everyone tells you point the thumb towards the ceiling and pull it over the right hip. If I point the thumb towards the ceiling from here, and I go to finish, my elbows will hit the floor. So now, my bridge is what actually finishes my partner from here. So my elbows hit the floor, and now I have a bridge, and you can get good pops from here. But I want to be able to break my partner's arm like to this degree in the opposite direction if I have to. The way to do this isn't to pull down towards the floor. It's to put my partner's knuckles on my stomach, like we talked about before, and point the knuckle line, the line that draws my partner's knuckles together, parallel to the floor. So that from here, I start a pull with my right hand and a push with my left hand over my right hip. So what this does now is it gives me the ability to have a much, to increase my range of motion in order to actually break my partner's arm. Whereas if I go here, my elbows hit the floor, I run out of range. So from here, I turn the hand into this position. Now from here, when I'm flat on my back, doesn't require me to bridge. I still do bridge, but most of the break comes from moving my head out and away. So I move my head off center towards my partner's head. I pull with my right hand and I push with my left hand across my hip, like so. And this is what gives me finishes. So that from here, I can push my partner's hand all the way across. And then we can start going in and we can push our partner's hand all the way across and do a full sit-up and like literally touch our partner's pinky knuckle to our partner's hips if we have to. Okay, and you can actually break someone's arm completely in half from here if you have to, and that's what our goal is from here. Okay, so quarter juji, braking mechanics, the second we lock up, we immediately fall right to our back from here. Right from here, we pull a strong back heel in with our left leg. We take our two knees together. This increases the pressure gives me a better braking fulcrum from here because I don't want to have looseness over this hip. The further my knees point up towards the ceiling and even point towards my partner's head, the easier it will be to push that hand across the hip. So back heel with the left leg, knees pointing towards my partner's head, which will be relatively up towards the ceiling. And now I just touch my partner's knuckles right to my stomach like so. Now, as I start a bridge straight up, I start taking my partner's arm with a pull and a push across my right hip. The easiest way to do this is to move my head position. So I move my head position out to the side, and then I start pulling and pushing across the hip like so. And I'll tell you right here, she's on breaking point. If I go any further than this, her arm will break. And I can still push the hand well across into this direction. And then from here, if I have to, I can even start pushing with two pushing grips, and I can literally sit up and jam the hand across the hip and get catastrophic breaks immediately and break your partner's arm like a toothpick. And that's what we want. So the second we separate our partner's hands, we go in, we kip everything apart, we get to that hand, we get to that wrist. From here, we move down into this position like so. Now from here, we never point the thumb up. We point it across the body and we put those knuckle line parallel to the floor and we just glue it right to our stomach. Now from here, knees pinch and point towards our partner's head. Back heel with the left leg. And now right from here, we take our head out to the side towards our partner's head and we get a pull and a push with that V grip and that grip on the hand. So right now, she's on breaking point. If I go any further than this, she'll break. And I still have tons of motion with this basic grip right here, being able to go through and start bridging and breaking our partner's arm across the hip very, very easily. Okay, so those are the mechanics we're looking for. Those are most of the mechanics we'll be using throughout the rest of this instructional. All right, let's look at the idea of peeling our partner's thumbs back from various gripping positions, which can really help us when we're looking to separate grips. So one of my key things that I do is I use a combination of the kipping motion, and I'll look to start peeling my partner's thumbs at the same time. So if she has a palm-to-palm grip, for example, or sorry, a wrist, 10-finger grip, for example, and from here, I go to start bringing my partner's hands apart and I feel like I can't do it, I will physically grab over my partner's thumb and I will start peeling the hands away at the thumb. So that from here, if I just go to start kipping and I feel like my partner locks, maybe her hands are locked the correct way for me to do it to this side, so switch hands, I start pulling the hands away, and from here, maybe I can't kip my partner's hands apart, so I go in and I just grab over my partner's thumb, and they will physically peel the thumb back and separate the hands. So when she goes to keep her hands locked tight, I'll pull the hands apart the best I can, and then the extra kipping motion will allow me to separate the hands easy. Or maybe I go to start kipping the hands apart and she switches the grip. So now I'm pulling into the grip from here. So I feel like I can't kip my partner's hands apart, so I'll physically grab over the thumb from here, and I will pull, where I grab deep over the thumb, and then I roll my wrist back and I start pulling the thumb towards me. So now when she goes to hold on, I pull one grip one way and I pull the other grip in the opposite direction, and we can pull the hands apart very easily from here. Okay? You can use this in wrist-to-wrist grips too. Palm to palm, if your partner goes palm to palm from here, it's hard to expose my partner's thumb because she's physically grabbing over her own thumb, so it's difficult to do from these positions. When she goes wrist to wrist, she exposes the thumbs again. So right from here, we can go through, we can access that top thumb. Now we can roll the hand towards us. So when she goes to lock on tight now, we can separate the hands pretty easy. She goes to switch her grips, and from here, we can come through and we can start peeling our partner's thumb back. So when she goes to hold on, if I just go to kip and separate, it's hard. When I physically open one of my partner's hands from here, now we can go in and we can start pulling the hands apart. We can even start doing things, because their elbow's trapped, we can start doing things like going in and threatening wrist locks on our partner. So now from here, if she stays in this position, she gets broken with a wrist lock, with a cow hand. So what she has to do is she has to start going in, separating her hands and peeling my thumb. Now if she goes to peel my thumb, her hands are open. And now from here we can go through and start pulling our partner into winning positions. So we can use these grips on our partner's thumbs in conjunction with other submissions like wrist locks to just create diversions and distractions to get our partner grabbing our opposite hand so her hands are open. Or we can just use them in conjunction with the kipping method, where from here I'm pulling the grip and it's not coming apart. I physically peel my partner's hands apart. So when she goes to hold on tight, I physically pull one hand back, and then from here we can separate and we can go in and start going elbow deep and getting our partner's hands extended from there. So we can peel thumbs in various grips, whether she goes wrist to wrist, whether she goes palm to palm. When she goes wrist to wrist or 10-finger grip, we can always come in and start using combinations of peeling the hands back, kipping, and then separating our partner's hands for the win and going in and hitting all of our finishes from there. All right, so now let's go over a method of combining grabbing the thumbs and using the kipping method to separate my partner's hands when you feel like you have a strong opponent, you're in a quarter juji, you fall towards the legs, and you gotta start separating your partner's hands from here. So from here we fall towards the legs and we're playing in this position like so. Right from here I feel like I'm kipping, I just can't separate my partner's hands. Right from this position, we're just gonna reach through and we're gonna catch our partner's thumb like so. If I have to, and I feel like I can't get to the thumb, my elbows come together. So I feed with my left hand, her hands down. Now, if I feel like I can't do this, don't worry. I just reach up, so I just recenter real quick. She pulls her hands in tight. I just reach up and I just grab over my partner's thumb like so. And now I fall down to this position. Now right from here, because I'm falling with two hands, when she goes to pull her hands into her chest, it's your falling body weight versus both of her hands. So I can just extend. When she goes to keep her hands in towards her chest, we fall into this position. And now I physically roll my partner's thumb back. When she goes to keep her hands locked tight, the combination of the thumb and the kipping method, when she goes to keep her hands locked from here, there's just no way. And now right from here, we just switch from over the thumb and we just roll our hand into this position. Now from here, we switch to that wrist, we elongate our body, and then we go in for our break over the right hip as we did before. So we go in, whether we fall to the legs first and then we reach and we catch, or whether we go to fall and as we fall we just reach over and right from here we go in elbow deep. Now she goes to pull her hands in and we just place our elbow on the floor. She goes to hold on tight and there's just no way with the thumb and the kipping motion our partner can keep her hands locked. Now we just switch from the top of the hand to the bottom of the hand. Now we extend it. The second she goes to pull everything back in, I keep my elbow on my partner's wrist until I have her arm bent beyond 90 degrees. Once I do that, then I switch to my wrist grip, okay? So what I don't want is to switch too soon, and then from here, she pulls her hand in and she grabs her own fingers again, or I slip the grip and she relocks her hands. So I keep my elbow deep grip. As she goes to start pulling her hands back in, I keep the elbow deep grip here, and now once I'm almost on my back, we switch. Now we straighten everything out and we go in and we start breaking, okay? So I don't go to this grip before I get my partner's arm elongated beyond 90, because now she can pull it back in if she's super strong and relock her hands, strip my grip, whatever the case is. So I'm always here. I keep it close to the body. So now when she goes to pull the hand back in, there's just no way. And now I switch and we go in and we break. If we look at, actually I want to do this one too. So that was the one side. Now my partner switches her hands into this position, okay? So before, she had her hands locked in. Actually, switch. She had her hands locked in like so. So we grabbed over the near side thumb. This time, she switches her hands. So now the kipping method isn't going to work regardless. It can work, but it's going to be much harder regardless because you're pulling the grips into one another. Whenever I see this, if I'm already here, I just come back up, I reset, and I catch, like so. Now, right from this position, I pull my partner's far thumb towards me. Now, as I start to lean towards my partner's legs, like so, I'm going to look to start pulling the grips in opposite directions. So my right elbow pulls everything in this direction, as my left elbow pulls everything of her near side hand towards her head. So I physically open the grips like so. As I do this, I use the kipping motion and I start pulling back and away. So my body extends back and away. I open the grip here and I pull the grip here. So when she goes to lock on tight, I separate the grips like so. Now we start to extend. As the arm extends, we switch. We switch, and now we go in and we break. So if I see my partner, I'm falling towards the legs, my partner has a grip like so, or maybe she switches the grip and she realizes that, okay, he's falling towards the leg. I'm going to make it hard to start kipping the hands apart because of the fact that now he's pulling the grips into one another. This time, there's no near side thumb to catch. So instead, I catch the far side thumb here. And right from here, we start going in opposite directions. So we fall towards the legs, we start putting body weight on that arm. Now if she goes to lock up tight, we kip, 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 and pull in two separate directions. So when she goes to lock up tight, 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 we separate. We catch, we switch, and now we go in and we break. So we either go, depending on what her grip is like, we go far side thumb and break, or we go near side thumb and break. All right, so now it's palm to palm. It's hard, like I said, to expose my partner's thumbs. Because my partner, when she locks palm to palm, she physically grabs her own thumb. So it's hard to get over like the meat of your partner's hand and actually grab that thumb in a meaningful way. But what I can do is I can grab my partner's knuckle line. Okay, and the way we do this is we start falling towards my partner's legs. From here, again, just like with 10-finger grip, if she goes 10-finger. From here, if I see that the near hand is on bottom, we go far thumb. If we see the near hand is on top, we go top thumb. We go near thumb. Okay. If my partner locks palm to palm, from here, if I see my partner's near hand is on top, we go near hand. If my partner's far hand is on top, we go far hand. But instead of grabbing the thumbs, we grab over the knuckle line. We do this in a very specific way. So from here, I see near hand is on top, and we're going to start going in. We feel like my partner is just uber strong and the kipping's not working from here. From here, we just go over our partner's knuckle line very specifically. And now I have to roll my wrist and I want to expose the underside, like of my partner's hand to my thumb here. So I can get a strong grip over my partner's knuckle line and really control the hand. When she goes to lock up, if I just grab randomly here, you won't get a good grip. So I really roll my wrist and I feed my thumb underneath like so. From this position, as we fall down, I'm going to look to start pulling my partner's hand across in this direction. I want to start unraveling my partner's grip. So from here, the rolling of my wrist will pull my partner's fingers into this position like so. And when she goes to hold on tight, even with a strong person, it's a pretty easy thing to start separating my partner's hands from here because you have such good control over your partner's knuckle line. Okay? This, in combination with the kipping motion, when she goes to lock up tight, there's just no way. And now from here, if your partner's trying to relock the hands, I always start going in and taking my partner's wrist into this bent position. And I start threatening wrist lock. So she has to address my right hand position. And as she goes to address my right hand position, she goes to peel my hand off, that gives me the extension we need. Now, because I'm elbow deep, when she goes to relock her hands, number one, my hand's closer. Number two, even if she locks them, it means nothing. We just go right back to the hand, and then we separate the hands once again. And now we go in, we lock up, and we can finish. Okay? So she goes near hand on top, like so. From this position, we go in, we catch our partner's near hand. We roll our thumb underneath, and we get a strong bite on the meat of our partner's hand. And now from here, we start pulling, kipping, 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 and we start rolling the hands apart. We either, one, go right to our preferred gripping here, or 2, we start threatening a wrist lock as my partner goes to strip my hand off. That gives me the extension we need, and now from here we can go in and start breaking. If my partner starts to go into a situation where she grips in the opposite direction, where now her forehand is on top. Now from here, we go in, we roll our wrist, and we get underneath the meat of our partner's forehand. And now we go in and we start separating. This time, I don't want to roll the grips into one another, okay? What I can do is I can switch, and I can go multi-directional. I can start rolling the hands in this direction. If she gives me no reaction, the hands slip off a lot of times. The second she goes to resist in the opposite direction, now I just pull back in this direction and I separate my partner's hands. So I can start moving in this direction. If she does nothing, the hands slip off, but she's always going to flex her wrist and roll back in the opposite direction. So the second I go to push, she gives me a pushback, and we separate the hands very easily. Right from here, we extend and we control our partner's forearm. When she goes to strip that grip, it's always going to be too late. I always have control. We can go in and start separating our partner's arm from here. Okay, so now we're starting to have this pattern. We're starting to have this game where if my partner, either from a 10-finger grip or palm-to-palm grip, locks in one way or another, we can always address the grip sufficiently. If she goes near hand on top, and she goes 10-finger, we access the thumbs. She goes far hand on top, 10-finger, we access the far thumb. She goes near hand on top, palm to palm, then from here, we access the near knuckle line. She goes far hand on top, palm to palm, we access the far knuckle line. And now from here, we go in until we can eventually separate those hands, and now we can go through, lock up, and get our win. All right, so now we're gonna go in, we go wrist to wrist this time. Same kind of idea here. Because she's wrist to wrist, we can expose the thumb. So she goes near hand on top, like so, and she goes wrist to wrist. From here, we just grab right over our partner's knuckle, our partner's thumb line, like so. From here, as we go to start kipping, we pull our partner's hand in this direction. So as we go to start falling towards our partner's legs, we pull everything in this direction, and now we play the same game of either separating the hands completely, and now we're at the long end of the lever at the hand, where now from here we can slide up. As our partner grabs her own wrist, as we slide, it will naturally shear the hand off with my elbow position. Now we roll over the top and we make our switch. If we find that from here, we go to separate our partner's hands and she's trying to relock 10-finger, we put a bend in the wrist. So now as she goes to strip my hand off, she has to avoid getting broken with the cow hand with the wrist lock, and then from here we just peel the hand off, we go in and we start breaking. Conversely, this time, she puts far hand on top, right? So now, it doesn't really make sense to go to my partner's near side thumb. So instead, this time, we go in and we lock far side thumb. Right from here, we want to start unraveling that grip. So we're elbow deep. As we start falling, we just pull everything back. So we just roll that hand out like so. Now I'm pulling away from the top grip. So when she goes to hold on, she only has a grip with her right hand. So now as she goes to hold on to her own wrist, the kip, we'll separate that easy. I keep control over my partner's far hand, and now we make that switch and we go in for the win. All right, so same idea here. This time we're accessing our partner's thumb. She's wrist to wrist. It's hard for me to start going in using the kipping method. So she has a near hand on top, like so. We go near side thumb. She goes to hold on. That's a hard thing to do. She has far hand on top, and we go in, far side thumb. She goes to hold on. It's a hard thing to do. And now we go in and we get our win, we get our break, and we finish. All right, so now we have some of our grip breaks taken care of, and we're gonna go into figure fours later when we move into full juji because they're more prominent there, and we're gonna switch from a quarter juji into a full juji when our partner does lock a figure four. But we're gonna go into separating our partner's hands, and then she goes into a hamstring grab that we looked at in the defensive series. But from here, I separate my partner's hands, and before she unlocks, gets the hand straightened, she grabs inside of her own hamstring and physically wedges her hand inside. It's actually a pretty hard grip to separate from here. Whenever I see this, I'm gonna quickly put my hand in the floor. I'm gonna pop up into this position, and I'm just gonna catch over my partner's thumb again. So now from here, when she goes to keep that hand in, I'm just gonna roll my partner's thumb back and extend my partner's hand on through. Now right from here, she goes to relock, and I have that elbow deep grip. So that allows us to go in, catch our partner's hand like so, straighten ourselves out, and then go into our break. So I separate my partner's hand, however it may be from here. From here, I feel like, for whatever reason, maybe the kipping's not working, we go through and we start pulling our partner's hands out and away. Now as I go to extend, she brings her knee up and she meets me halfway through, and I feel like I can't take my partner's hand off the floor. Right from here, we go through and we catch. Now as she goes to start coming up towards me, the cross-faced leg makes it difficult. Now I can peel that thumb back, we can make our switch, and now we can go into our break when our partner grabs their hamstring, and we can finish. So grabbing my partner's, over my partner's thumb, and physically peeling the hand back rather than just trying to extend the hand on through. All right, so that was falling towards the legs on our partner. Now we're gonna look at using a top hand post and falling towards our partner's head instead. So this time, we go in and we start falling out towards our partner's head in this direction like so. From here, this time we're gonna go through and we're gonna take that elbow deep grip up on our partner's wrist, and now we can always just kip our partner's hands apart as we do so like so. Now as we go to kip our partner's hands apart, because we have to grab our partner's right hand with our hand from here, the setup is gonna be a little bit different. Right from here, as we go to start extending our partner's arm, we go in and we just grab our partner's wrist with our left hand like so. Now we slide our hand back and we just catch our partner's hand here, and now from here we can pull our partner's arm in, we can flatten our body out, and now we can go through and we can break our partner as we did before. So just separating our partner's hands with a basic kipping motion, where as we go to fall, we go through, we lock up with that nice deep elbow grip, and now we start separating our partner's hands. Once we separate, we get that extension beyond 90 degrees. Once we get the extension beyond 90 degrees, we feed it to that V grip. And right from here, we don't take the hand off and allow my partner to possibly come forward, pull the hand back in, and relock 10 finger. So the whole time, we slide across the hands. So we keep that tension at the long end of the lever, so even if she did bring her hand in, it's still hard for her to lock because of the fact that my wrist is a wedge between her two hands. If I don't just go here, so if she does pull it in, she can pull everything through, there's no tension, and she can relock her hands. So I slide from here to here. Now we catch, we can go in and start breaking. So that's just a basic kip where she locks her hands in a 10 finger grip. And from here, as we fall, we use the opposite hand. We have a top hand post now, so our opposite hand is fed through. So that's how to feed into proper gripping from these scenarios when we fall towards the head. Okay. Now separating a 10 finger grip from this position. This time we're going to go in and we see that my partner's near hand is on bottom. When I see this, we're going to go through and we're going to start taking a situation where we can grab our partner's thumb on this side like so. So now as she goes to start locking up, we can grab at the thumb and we can use a combination of peeling or rolling our partner's hands back from here, and now we can go in and start kipping, and that gives us the grip that we need like so. Now right from here, we're going to switch to a grip with our right hand, and then our left hand is going to transfer down to the wrist. And now from here we can go in and start finishing our partner. So whenever I see the bottom hand, or the near hand is on bottom, we just grab our partner's thumb like so. If I see my partner has the opposite hand on bottom, like so, and I see the near hand is on top, from this position, we just go through, we grab the thumb on the opposite side. So that right now from here, we can go through, and we can start rolling our partner's thumb back on the opposite side. And now, we just kip, we separate our partner's hands. Now we extend, and right from this position, we go through, and we catch the wrist, slide to the hand, and now we can go in, and we can start breaking. So if we fall towards the legs, and we're in this position, when we see my partner's bottom hand, or my partner's near hand is on bottom, we go to the far thumb. If we see that my partner's near hand is on top, like so, we go to the near thumb. If we see that we fall this way, the same configuration, this time we switch hands. It's the opposite, right? So we have to make this connection. So that from here, instead of reaching to the top thumb and trying to peel my partner's hands apart, if my partner's near hand is on top, we reach to the far side thumb. If I come up, we just catch that far side thumb. Now we go up high by the wrist. When she goes to hold on tight, we fall back down to the elbow. And now when she goes to lock her hands tight, I just roll that wrist towards me, I open the thumb up, and now that kipping motion will always be able to separate my partner's hands nice and easy, and now from here we can go through and start playing a game where we lock up. If we see my partner's hands are switched, like so, and now from here, switch it other way, and now from here, no, you had it right, sorry. And now from here, the near hand is on top. From this position, we go through, elbow deep, we grab our partner's top thumb. And now we just grab two hands, we start kipping. We can separate our partner's hands like so, go through, make that connection, and finish our partner. All right, so now we're gonna look at falling towards the head and separating our partner's grip when she's palm to palm in this quarter GG. Now, understand, because we're falling in a different direction here, the ability to grip our partner's hands is a little bit different. When we fall towards the underhook side, I keep going to a full GG, but the grip break remains the same. I'm just more comfortable for me, so I keep like instinctually going there. When I fall towards this side, understand it's a pretty easy thing for me to go through and to get my thumb underneath my partner's hand and lock in like so. And when she switches her grips, it's a pretty easy thing for me to go through and to get my hand underneath and lock up like so. So I can actually grab the meat of my partner's hand. Whereas when I fall across to this side, it's a difficult thing for me to start going in and start getting my hands underneath my partner's hands in this position. Okay, so it's a different gripping pattern because I'm falling from one side to the other, and the positions are a little bit different from here. Okay, so whenever I see my partner's top hand is my partner's near hand is on top, we're going to go through and we're just going to grab my partner's thumb in on this side, and we're going to go underneath our partner's thumb like so. So that from here, when she goes to lock up, as I go to start kipping, I just roll my partner's hand and I open the thumb the best I can. And now from here, we just kip. We separate our partner's hand, and now we hold the hand until we get extension the best we can. Then we go V-grip, we switch to the thumb, and now we can go in and start breaking. If I see my partner goes to switch to her opposite hand on bottom, again, it's hard to go in and get my hand underneath in various ways from here. So from here, we just go through, we grab the bottom thumb once again. As we go to fall, from this position, we just pull the thumb open, and then we pull it towards us to put a bend in the wrist. So now from here, when she goes to hold on, we just fall, we kip. We separate those hands, and now we go V-grip, thumb, and we can go in and break. So a little bit different here because we have different access points to our partner's hands. When my partner locks up tight in this position, it's a pretty easy thing to go through and to get under the meat of my partner's hand here and pull everything down and away. Okay? If she keeps that same hand on top from here, I'm going in not at the bottom of my partner's hand, but I'm going in at the top of my partner's hand from here. So the gripping becomes different from this scenario, and it's hard to go in at the thumb and get underneath my partner's hand. And it's hard to reach over and get four fingers underneath our partner's palm. Okay? If she switches her hands, top and bottom from here, it's a difficult thing to go in and get underneath our partner's thumb again. And it's hard to get four fingers on the inside. So when I fall towards my partner's head, I always just access the bottom thumb from either position. So when she goes to hold on tight from here, we just misalign the hands, and then we just separate our partner's hands, and then we can make our adjustments. So when I fall towards the head, it's very different than falling towards the legs. When I fall towards the legs, I can always insert my thumb underneath the meat of my partner's hand and physically grab the knuckle line. I can't insert my hand behind my partner's hands from here because it's thumb to thumb. It's not thumb underneath the meat of my partner's hand. And when she switches her hands, again, it's still thumb to thumb. It's not thumb to the back of my partner's hand like it would be if I was falling towards the legs. So the grip breaks here are different. And we have to recognize falling towards the legs versus falling towards the head when we're thinking about going in and separating our partner's grips adequately and sufficiently from this top hand post. So whether I see near hand on bottom or near hand on top, it makes no difference. We go to the bottom thumb. And now when we just go to roll everything back in a way, we open the hand the best we can, and it's just kip. We create that separation, and we go in for the win. So now let's look at wrist to wrist on our partner when we're falling towards the head with this top hand post. Okay, when she locks wrist to wrist and then go bottom hand or we go bottom hand post, and we fall towards the legs, we can physically grab over our partner's thumb, and we can pull it into these positions. Whereas when I'm top hand post, I can't reach over my partner's thumb from here because I'm on the opposite side. So things change a little bit from here. When she switches her hands, so the bottom hand being, with the far hand being on top, again, things change from here because I'm not just grabbing over my partner's thumb. I can go in and I can grab my partner's full hand from here, and now the grip breaks are a little bit different from this position. So when my partner has her near hand on top, like so, I want to look to get a wedge between my left hand and her hand and forearm here. I want this. So the question is, how can we do this? So from this position, we're in a quarter juji. Right from here, we're going to go in. As we fall, we just reach and we catch our partner's hand. If we have to sit up briefly, we can, still leaning out in this direction, and we just grab our partner's full knuckle line, and then we fall back in this direction like so. Now, right from here, we just pull the hand out and away. So we physically roll her hand off the wrist. And now we just take our hand underneath, and we go wrist to wrist. So now when she goes to relock her hands, the wrist to wrist makes it difficult. Now, right from here, we shoot elbow deep, and now, when she goes to lock up her hand strong, we're at the long end of the lever. Now we just go in, pump, 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 separate, and now right from here, we go wrist to wrist, thumb to wrist, thumb to thumb, and then we can extend and go into our breaks. So she goes top hand, or near hand on top. Right from here, we just physically grab over our partner's knuckle line, we roll everything through, and then right from here, we catch. Right from here, as we start to move down and away, we go in elbow deep, pump, 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 separate, and get the win. This time she switches, and the near hand's on top. All right. Right from here, as the far hand's on top. As the far hand moves to top position, right from here we're going to go in, and if we have to, we sit up and we just grab our partner's thumb and come back down to the elbow. So that from here we can create separation, and as we roll that hand back and away, we just go in and we punch our hand in like so. So that now when she goes to relock wrist to wrist, my hand replaces where her hand just was on my partner's wrist. And now we just finagle ourselves into a situation where we can work at the long end of the lever, pump, 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 pump. She can grab her wrist all she wants from here. Once the hand is starting to come extended, we just pump, pump, pump. And as we do, my forearm slides in towards her hand and it strips that grip off. If I just pull, I'm pulling into the strength of her grip. So as I pull, I slide my right hand up like so, and that pops the grip off. And now right from here, 1, 2, and then we go in and we make strong finishes. So I see far hand is on top this time. Right from here we come up and we grab over our partner's thumb. Right from here we start pulling everything towards us, and as we do so, when she goes to re-grip, we just touch our partner's forearm like so. Now right from here, we go in, we fall, and we start locking up. As we come up, we shear that hand off. And now right from here, we make the switch, make the change, we go in, and we get strong breaks right from there.